And I just want to thank our audience for joining us today. This is Shireen Tabor and Astrid Hajjar with Empower Women Media and the Abraham Women's Alliance. This is the Abrahamic panel experience, and I want our viewers to know that this actually recording will go out to over 10,000 leaders and influencers, mostly in the Middle East, but we also have followers in Nigeria and Pakistan, which are also going through their own issues with religious-based conflict and wanting to find a path forward. The purpose of today is to hear from Sir Liam Fox about some updates about the Abraham Accords and the peace deal and how we can imagine a different future where we're living together in multi-faith societies. I have an Iranian American heritage. Astrid has a Lebanese, Venezuelan American heritage. And we want to see a future we can freely travel into the Middle East and bring our families and work on women's empowerment and human rights and create an environment where all people can live what they believe. So at the end of this little program, we will have some sharing time, hearing about other upcoming events, including our recent London forum. And then we'll be hosting a Middle East Malta summit where we will continue to talk about how we can advance the peace deal, the Abraham Accords, and women's empowerment in the Middle East. So with that, I will turn it over to Astrid.
Welcome, Sir Liam Fox. It is a pleasure to host you at our last Abraham Women Alliance event of the year. Good afternoon, everyone. And Shireen and I are delighted to be here with all of you. Shireen and I are the co-founders of the Abraham Women Alliance. And it is a real pleasure to welcome Sir Liam Fox. We have a very special guest. Sir Liam Fox was the former Secretary of Defense in the UK and now is the chairman of the UK Abraham Accords Group. Sir Liam Fox, it's a British Conservative Party politician who has served as a member of the parliament since 1992 and held significant roles, including Secretary of State of Defense and Secretary of State for International Trade. Before his political career, he was a medical doctor, GP, and a civilian army medical officer, a background he credits with giving him a unique perspective in politics. He's known for his involvement in international trade, defense, and for his work as a strong supporter of entrepreneurs. Sir Liam is also the author of his new book, The Coming Storm. Sir Liam, welcome to the Abraham Women Alliance
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sir Liam, it is for us as well. I would like to start off today's conversation by asking you about your new book, The Coming Storm, Why Water Will Shape the 21st Century. In this book, you refer to linkages about different areas of life affected by water. Can you please discuss some details about your book?
Well, thank you. Well, I wanted to write a book that was not just a factual account of a whole range of different elements related to water, but for me was personal. So it took in my work as a doctor, writing about illness and waterborne disease around the world. I mean, it's fairly shocking that 3.5 million people every year die of waterborne disease in the 21st century, 2.2 million of which are children. And I quite often say to people, these numbers go over our heads, but that's the equivalent of 6 9/11s a day or 12 Titanic sinkings a day. And it brings home the scale of that. And that's entirely preventable, and it's fairly shocking. And I also wanted to write about the geopolitics from my security background. And if you want an example of where water and geopolitics mix, you see that 42% of all the human beings on our planet get their drinking or agricultural water from a river that comes off the Tibetan plateau. That's either the Indus, the Ganges, Brahmaputra, Mekong, Yellow, or Yangtze. And China controls the headwaters of all 6 of those now. There are 56,000 major dams in the world. Half of those are in China. So China has an immense control over water for a huge part of the global population. And when I hear people talking about Tibet and it's a cultural issue, for China, it's an issue of natural resources and control over them. So we need to get that into our heads. And then when you look at that and you combine all of that with the potential changes of that we're seeing in global climate, you are likely to see, with the changes in global climate and the mismatch in population and water supply, huge pressures on global migration, and big changes in those disease patterns. 22 European countries now have dengue fever, for example, which few people will understand, and we'll see enormous changes. So I wanted to bring it all together. I wanted to bring some of the climate science together and some of the medicine together and the geopolitics together. And you look at, we were talking, I know we're going to talk about the Middle East, but, if you want to see an example of where there are new power structures emerging between upstream water powers and downstream water powers, the completion of the Grand Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia means that Ethiopia now controls the flow of the Nile. Not that there's any evidence that they have any malign intent, but if you are Sudan or Egypt, you are now effectively in a very different power relationship, and read that across to not only those rivers in China, but the relationship between Turkey and Iraq and Syria, or Iran and its neighbors. And you can see where as there becomes more competition for water, and as we're polluting more of our global water to the point there'll be more plastic in the seas by 2050 than fish in terms of weight, you can see just how big an issue it actually is when you bring it all together. And it's, I wanted to write it because in our politics, we're terribly siloed. So water's not at the top of the debate on economic issues or trade issues or defense, but it's quite close to the top in all of those. But if you aggregate them, it is a big issue, right down to the clothes we wear. And, I would like to be able to buy a cotton shirt that I knew had been made from cotton that wasn't destroying the environment of the country that it was in. So there are lots of things we could do in global trade as well as in security. So, and the book's just been published in Arabic, which is interesting. So I'm off to Sharjah next week to the Sharjah Book Festival. If anyone's watching and wants to come and join, do feel free. And it's interesting that amongst Arab nations, water is a very, very big issue and becoming bigger all the time.
Oh, absolutely. But what I found fascinating about this book is that when you refer to the linkages of all these elements that you seldom find in any publication, the connections of water with geopolitics, with geographical boundaries, with even sustainability or in so many areas. So thank you for publishing this book. But let's talk about the main reason why we're here today, and it is the Abraham Accords. We would love for you to talk a little bit about what is the current state of the Abraham Accords and how is affecting and how is reshaping the Middle East as we speak.
Well, I'll maybe take that in two parts. So overall, I think that the strategic patience shown by the Arab partners in the Abraham Accords has been immense. So all through the Gaza conflict, well, there was quite a lot of political pressure, particularly in Morocco and Bahrain, along with the UAE. They really stuck with the project because I think they take the view correctly that this is the best hope for taking forward peace and reconciliation, first of all, in those countries that I've mentioned, but then against a much wider grouping too. As I was saying when I was speaking in Paris last night, the descendants of Abraham don't recognize borders. They have spread, far and wide. And we do need to start to think about the impacts on people and not the impacts on countries. And so my organization, the International Abraham Accords Prosperity Group, our role is to provide the bottom-up strategy. If you think of the Abraham Accords as being the top-down, it's very heavily with politics, diplomacy, big business, and so on. My view is that if there's not a tangible benefit on the Arab street in 10 years' time, then Abraham Accords runs the risk of going the same way as the Oslo process or Camp David and others. So we need to ensure that there is a way to make very clear to young people in particular that this is their future and that the political benefits can be translated into economic opportunities in a way that don't really exist at the moment. And even down to small things like in a country like the UAE, where there's a huge amount of capital, only 2% of all the bank lending goes to small and medium businesses. So we need to find a way to get seed money to young people who want to come into business. And we need to build interlinkages, joint ventures, making sure that we can get cross-border cooperation so that the next generation see others across the region as potential partners, not potential enemies.
Wonderful. And I have a question here that was just sent to me. If you don't mind, it's related to what we're talking about. How has the ongoing conflict in Gaza and other regional tensions, such as those involving Iran or Hezbollah, tested the resilience of the Accords, and what is their current status amidst this turmoil?
Yes, indeed, it did test what I would call their strategic patience. And I think they've come through that test. And I think probably the biggest test was just a few weeks ago, because one of the conditions for the signing of the Abraham Accords was that there would be no annexation by Israel of the West Bank. And when we reached that point, I thought that was the point of greatest danger for the Accords. We've now passed that. President Trump made it very clear that America would not countenance such a policy. And the clarity of that statement has actually helped, I think, calm nerves a great deal and given some confidence in the process moving forward. It is going to, however, require all of us at every level, whether it's at the statecraft level or through business and politics and NGOs and so on. We will all have to do our bit. We can't just depend on governments doing that. It's not a process that they can manage alone. And so our organization basically has 4 pillars. It's got a social media communication channel called Reach. We are about to launch our Abraham Accords Prosperity Fund, which I'm happy to talk about. We're going to be launching at the end of November a new international think tank network. So with think tanks in Morocco and the UAE and Israel, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, UK, US, and then a couple of others that I'm not talking about yet. Because we have to, if we really are serious about this being a generational change, we've got to find ways to bring the next generation into politics, policy formation, so that they are having a voice in the future of their own region. And we need to work hard at that. I've agreed to chair this organization for the next 10 years. My wife thinks I'm insane, and she's usually right, so maybe I am. But unless we're willing to make a long-term commitment and have programs that go much longer than just the 3 or 4 year spans of democratic Western governments, then we'll not be able to get the long-term continuity and confidence that we need. So if somebody said to me, from the point of view of the Abraham Accords, what are we doing? I would say our mission is to give as many people as possible something to lose. Because people who've got something to lose are more circumspect about the decisions that they take than people who've got nothing to lose, who are likely to gamble with it. So that's the challenge.
That's quite an angle to look at to look at the Abraham Accords at. So I have another question coming up from our listeners today. What is the likelihood of Saudi Arabia formally joining the Abraham Accords, and what specific concessions or pathways regarding the Palestinian issue would be required for this to happen? In which other countries, Indonesia, Somalia, Mauritania, Azerbaijan, are most likely to be the next signatories? And what are I know it's a lot of questions, but I try to put them all, condense them all together in one question. And what are the primary motivations or incentives that might bring them into the fold?
Well, there are 2 things. There's membership of the Abraham Accords as an organization, in other words, just signing themselves in. But when I was in Azerbaijan a couple of weeks ago, what they were talking about there is, how do we further the spirit of the Abraham Accords? How are we taking forward the aims and the ambitions rather than just seeing it as a club? And I thought that was quite interesting. And we had a number of discussions. For example, how does that translate itself at any point into a security architecture? if in fact it does. The question of Saudi Arabia is that I think that they've made it very clear that there had to be progress on the Palestinian issue. That wasn't quantified what that would be, nor was it really specified, but there needed to be progress. I don't think that we're at the point now, nor in the near future, where we will see Saudi Arabia actually joining the Abraham Accords. It has a massive geopolitical importance, that because if Saudi Arabia were to reach a full rapprochement with Israel and join the Abraham Accords, basically it would be the green light for every Sunni Muslim government to do the same. That would leave Iran completely isolated, and of course Iran will do anything it can to stop that relationship from happening. Indeed, when the Crown Prince was on Fox News and he was talking about moving closer to Israel every day, a number of us wondered which mechanism Iran would use to try to thwart that. Would it be Hezbollah? Would it be Hamas? Would it be the Houthis? Of course, it turned out to be all three. And one of the strongest and most powerful impetus at the present time is the weakened state of Iran, which is actually giving a little more encouragement and perhaps political will to other countries in the region to move forward in the process, which has been part of the resilience that you mentioned earlier. Who's next? Well, I don't really see why Azerbaijan would want to become a member. They already have very strong relationships with Israel. They've got very good defense relationships with the United States. I'm not sure what the upside for them of actually becoming a member would be. I think that there is a strong incentive for Indonesia to join a major Muslim but non-Arab country. And I think that would send a very powerful signal to the rest of the world. And, you mentioned about thinking differently. What if we didn't think about the Middle East as a problem? What if the Middle East was a powerful and wealthy part of the world that was encouraging inward investment, that was acting as a barrier to migration into Europe because it was offering economic opportunity in itself? What if Iran became a democratic state that was attractive to investment, that could ramp up oil and gas production and more than counterbalance what Russia is doing at the present time? You can see how if this process gets momentum, if Libya becomes a much more stable country, for example, and that's, I think, on the cards in the UN in the next few weeks, then I think you could see a major transformation. And maybe instead of us all talking about the Middle East as a problem to solve, we can see it as an opportunity that not only provides a much better lifestyle, greater stability and security in the region, but can actually alter geopolitics for the better.
Sir Liam, how do you see the Abrahamic peace roadmap for Lebanon and Syria?
Lebanon more than Syria. I think Lebanon has still got very severe internal political issues to deal with. I think it's much more complex. There are many more moving pieces. The economy is in a dreadful state. The Syrian economy, on the other hand, is rebounding quite quickly. A lot of expats have gone back to Syria, taking back the skills that they had before they left. I think that there is some hope that there could be a stable government there. And I think that bit by bit, you can see Syria edging back towards. I go back to just my Libya point for a second. If you think about it, if you've got an Iran that, at least for the moment, is weakened and may in fact have major changes coming, and you've got Iraq, which is attracting inward investment, and then you've got Israel and Egypt and a stable Libya, you suddenly are beginning to see a huge transformation in the region. You add into that the capital availability in the Gulf states, and you can see how you can join the dots to get a very different picture. So, I'm more optimistic than I was about this, because I do think that the war in Gaza, horrible though it is, I think has, in a sense, nudged people into a position of saying, we can't go on like this. It needs to change. There needs to be change. And we can't allow a lot of people who, let's face it, have invested politically, maybe even financially, in the perpetuation of conflict in the region, we can't allow them to hold sway. Because, well, you and I, the people watching this, we're shaped by our political history. We're shaped by the history of our nations. Too many young people in the Middle East are prisoners of their history. Our job is to, if you like, have the greatest intellectual prison break of all time, and get them out of that. And that requires us to think differently right at the beginning.
Absolutely, and with Sir Liam, with anti-Semitism spreading around the world, especially on college campuses, what role in a transformative Middle East? What role do you see the pillars of the principles of the Abraham Accord playing in confronting this type of acts throughout around the world?
Well, the whole question of political extremism is a very interesting one. I dislike the phrase political extremists. I prefer to use extremists who use religion, because they're basically ideologues who've either hijacked a religion or used it as a cover for their other activities. When I talked about that recently in Abu Dhabi, the Iranian ambassador walked out. You can draw your own conclusions about that. And I think that if you're going to create a different long-term environment, you need to transition along a spectrum from tolerance of other people's ideas, which is kind of, if you like, the lowest common denominator. And then you need to move through peaceful coexistence, which is further along that, and mutual respect is the point you're trying to get to. And a lot of that is about talking to people, getting people to talk to other people and to recognize, basically, if everyone believes that there's one God, it doesn't really matter what you use as a name for that God. What matters is what you do in the name of that God. And getting people to focus on their commonality, not their differences, is really quite important. And it's a project that, if you go to countries like Bahrain, who have got a history of religious tolerance more than many other parts of the wider region, you can see that just along from the synagogue, there's a Catholic cathedral, for example, in a Muslim country. It is possible for people to exercise their religious freedom in a society that is peacefully coexisting. I've just come back recently from Gibraltar, and Gibraltar is a place where Europeans, where Jews, where Muslims happily coexist without any tension. So it is possible to do it. Maybe we should be giving more examples of where it does work and spending less of our time talking about where it doesn't, because I think show is always better than tell, frankly. And if we can show people places where it is working, where religious tolerance, mutual recognition, mutual respect are already in place, then I think it's much easier to give someone a positive example that you can show them than to be talking in an abstract way.
Absolutely. Sir Liam, when Shireen and I decided to co-found the Abrams Women Alliance, a lot of people told us it's not possible. You're not going to be able to bring Jewish, Muslim, and Christian women to have a conversation in a Zoom. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do a conference in Dubai and go to the Abrahamic family house and bring all these women. Well, guess what? We did it. And it was successful, and our organization keeps growing. Our network keeps growing. So yes, I absolutely agree with your comments. And I just received a really good question, if you allow me. So what measures do we need to take to directly involve and benefit less engaged individuals like youth and women in peacemaking efforts as part of the Abraham Accords framework to increase its impact? Women are definitely needed in the negotiation table, and I would love to hear your comments on that.
Well, I think that, again, the answer is not top down. The answer is bottom up. I've often said that, when I talk about empowerment of women, it's not trying to get women onto company boards. It's getting to be women to be the company director at home. Women will have a huge impact on through their families on the attitudes that people will have, how their children see other people. We know that where, especially in Islamic societies, where women are more economically empowered, there's a direct relationship with an inverse relationship with political extremism and violence. So if you look, for example, at countries like Malaysia, where there's a Muslim country, a high proportion of women who are economically active, you'll see that the levels of extremism there are much lower than in other countries, say Pakistan, where women are not nearly so much empowered. So it is a major issue for us. And for us, in our investment in the fund that we're setting up, we make it very clear that we will support anyone, irrespective of religion, ethnicity, nationality, or gender, who has the right ideas. And we need to do that because we've got to be blind to all of those factors if we're going to create a meritocratic next generation. And that means women being able to be empowered economically, including financially. If we're going to be able to get the maximum out of our population. I mean, I've always thought that it was just crazy in any society that didn't give women equal rights, because they're half the population. How can you expect to maximize the potential of any one country if you exclude half the population and all their talents from that equation? It just doesn't make sense. So there's a lot that does need to be done there. And I think that so it's the sort of thing that we're talking about, with, for example, with our international think tank network, which will inevitably have a lot of women in it, I think offers the chance for us to be able to have women's voices heard without necessarily being related to a particular national identity. And I think that's key. I think to look at the barriers we have and find ways of breaking those barriers down and dissolve them. I mean, when anything in life, whenever you're confronted by what seems to be an immovable object, you can either spend your time bumping up against it, or you can find a way to get around it. And smart people do the latter. And that's very much what we want to do in the wider program that we're doing. And we've always seen this program not as being about a financial instrument, but creating an ecosystem that covers communication and finance and politics and academia, for example, to ensure that we get the widest range of voices contributing. And we've made it very clear. And people say to me, will you invest in this country? Will you invest in Jordan? Will you invest in Egypt? Will you invest in the West Bank? We don't invest in countries. We invest in people. If they are the right people, I don't care which country they're in. I don't care which flag they live under. I don't care about their nationality or ethnicity or gender or religion. If they've got the right ideas, that's what we should be encouraging. Otherwise, we will always see one another as representations of a flag, not human beings.
But as a chair of the UK Abraham Accords group, the fund that you intend to create, is it going to be just focus in the MENA region, or is it something that is going to be applied to the entire world?
It'll be MENA. It's MENA because we have a very clear task, which is to ensure that we provide social stability, political stability, and security. In many ways, I think we have to be frank that we've lost a lot of the current adult population, but we can still rescue the next generation, which is why this needs to be a long-term project. Getting young people to see one another differently. They already do, in a sense, because of communications and social media and so on. And let's try and use that in a positive way to be able to break down some of the barriers. And if you go on to Instagram, for example, and look at our Reach site, in the first 10 days, we had 3.5 million hits on that. But the Arabic to English rates were 3-1, which said to me, we're getting some of the right messages. And what we will do on that is we're giving examples just to young people of what can be done, other young people who've done great things in business. And then we will move on to, well, this could be you. Why should this not be your future as well? And then we'll move on from that into how we can help for that to happen. We'll be rolling out different parts of this program over the coming months.
Wonderful. And the last question for today, because I know you have a quite busy schedule, is as
I only just got here. I only just made the train from Paris, so you're nearly doing it by phone through the Channel Tunnel. So.
Well, we're very grateful that you're taking the time to be with us. And I'm sure that our listeners are delighted to hear what you have to say. So as you're very well aware, there are a lot of multilateral agreements taking place right now, including the India-Middle East Economic Corridor. Do you think that this type of agreements could dilute the effects of the Abraham Accords, the original purpose of the Abraham Accords, by connecting the different Arab countries with Israel and just focusing in the economic side of it, but not necessarily in the social or religious side of the perspective of the Accords? Would you like to comment on this?
No, I don't think it dilutes it at all. In fact, I think that what we need to do right across all these areas of international commerce, security, religious tolerance, and education, all these things, we need to create a mesh. And the more organizations we have, the more linkages we have, the more interdependencies we can create between individuals and countries, the safer we're likely to be in the longer term. So no, I think it's a good thing. And I think it's a good antidote to a world where, frankly, particularly in the West, there's been a bit of a retrenchment, a rise of nationalism, and less interest in international organizations. You cannot solve complex global problems from a national capital alone, no matter how powerful you are. So we do need to be able to develop the institutions. I think a lot of the institutions we currently have were designed in the second half of the 20th century and are not really fit for purpose as we move into the second quarter of the 21st century. So if we were able to develop new institutions which are more relevant, designed for the world in which we find ourselves today, I'm all for that. I was the UK's candidate to be the Director General of the World Trade Organization, and that's a very good example of an organization which, if it was working properly, could be delivering a great deal at the present time, but it's dysfunctional as an organization. It needs to be rethought. And when Ronald Reagan, his government really did design the current World Trade Framework, they did it for that time and those circumstances. We need that to be updated now. So any of these economic agreements are great. Anything that increases our interdependency one with another, I think, is one of the ways that we can actually contribute to peace, stability, and security in the future. And the last thing I would say on that is there's also a value element to all of this. If we want to get those elements of peace and security and stability, we've got to give people hope. We've got to give them opportunity. We have to give them dignity, because those things are a prerequisite for trust, and trust is needed to be able to provide those other things that I hope we all want to see.
Yes. Trust is certainly needed, Sir Liam, and you are the person to inspire us and lead us into that way of hope for the Middle East and for the rest of the world. Thank you, Sir Liam, for your time, for your wisdom, and for your words. And I hope you continue doing the work you're doing. We're following you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Follow us on Abraham Accords Prosperity Group. And look at our website, and we will update you as we go on, and maybe we can have this conversation again and see how we've progressed.
Yes. And Sir Liam, I would like to say also thank you so much. And I personally was very impacted by what you shared just in 30 minutes. You are an amazing communicator, very concise, and really casting a future. So thank you for that. And Astrid, I want to make sure that Sir Liam and his team knows that we would love to have you or a representative at the Malta Summit, which is a multi-faith summit. We already have dozens of organizations and countries that have registered, and it'd be a fabulous opportunity for you or someone on your team to come and share this same kind of message, to cast hope. And we'll have breakouts, and we have everyone writing a plan of action to go back to their NGOs and their communities. And we truly are civil society. Our emphasis is women, youth, and mobilizing people across, whether it's business or sports or, education. We would love to be involved, and we'd love to be your number one women's partner. I don't know if you have women's initiatives, but we're a women's network, and we would love to be considered your number one
Well,
women's partner.
I think when we go offline, we might want to have a conversation about whether this is a grouping that could be part of our think tank initiative.
Yes, we would love it. And we have more to talk about, but thank you so much. And we're really honored.
It's my
Sorry,
no,
Shirin,
it's my pleasure.
Shirin
Thank
and
you.
Astrid, if you could allow me just for a second, I just want to ask a very quick question, Liam. Thank you very much for, first of all, for giving such an overview. I just wanted to ask, I'm from Asia Nasif, former parliamentarian, and currently I am heading a women-owned and women-led organization called Resilient Women Network. Actually, I was just hoping to hear about Pakistan, that what's the stance of Pakistan, and I must say here that it's the women in Pakistan too who are taking the lead to promote freedom of religion or belief. So maybe you can, if you don't have time, you can answer it later, but just give your views regarding the stance of Pakistan.
I think the future of Pakistan hinges on the women of Pakistan and the empowerment of the women of Pakistan and the increased social and political influence of women in Pakistan. If that influence increases, then I think it will bring positive changes to society. And it needs to occur at all the different social levels and not just at the level of the most privileged in Pakistan. I think there's an enormous challenge there. I think it's a difficult challenge, but I think that that I'm afraid that you, the women, you hold the key to the future.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to the second part of our program. And I want to say a big thank you to Astrid for leading that excellent interview and your questions. And what we're going to do now is we're going to summarize some of our work that we've done recently and cast a vision for our future, which is we're heading to Malta, the Malta Summit. But we've had some amazing successes this year. We have hosted trainings in Pakistan. As Asia said, she is one of our small grantees. She has a large organization, but we provide a small grant for her to do her work, to have religious freedom trainings among government and diplomats and governing leaders. We also were able to reach out to media and journalists and host a training of 80 people with them, including nurses and teachers. And so you can see there's this perspective of reaching the grassroots in multiple sectors, whether it's education, diplomacy, media, youth, sports. But Astrid, would you like to just briefly share about your recent work with the WCC in Israel, and what did you see happen there with a multi-faith, multicultural women's event?
Oh, absolutely. We hosted a Zoom earlier today, the Women's Champions for Change event, brainstormed by Danny Hakim and his team. Incredible women that brought together a group of 30, between 30 and 40 women leaders from the MENA region, from the three Abrahamic faiths. It was one of the most inspiring conferences I've ever attended. The conference took place between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and it was a great opportunity to exchange ideas. And as I mentioned earlier today in the Zoom, it was a way to show the world that this dialogue is possible, that we can actually collaborate with each other. It doesn't matter if we're Muslim, Jewish, or Christian. Or I'm a Maronite Christian, or you are a Shia, or you are of Druze, or we came together and we had a wonderful conversation. We as women, this is our role. We have to show the world that this is possible. So thank you to Danny Hakim and his team in Israel for putting together such an inspired conference that that we will continue to connect, and I'm sure that many more things will come out of this conference. So yes, that's a very short summary of Women's Champions for Change. Don't forget to follow them in social media, Instagram, Facebook, or and please register to their website to receive their latest information.
Excellent. And we also co-hosted events through our partners in Egypt and Lebanon. Those events are a little bit more security conscious, so we can't share all the details in a Zoom call. But if you're interested in hosting events or trainings in the North Africa, other countries in the Middle East, we'd love for you to reach out. Is Deborah available to talk about the forum in London? Do you see Deborah? Is she still with us? Because I know she had another appointment. So I'm curious if she's still there. If
I'm
not,
still here. Can you
okay,
hear me?
Deborah. Yes, go ahead. And can you show Astrid? I don't know if you can
Yes,
find
she can start her video right now, Deborah. There she is.
Deborah. So thank you. You were with
Hi.
us in London. Can you summarize the London Forum and what you experienced there and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Paul. I have been working with Shireen and Astrid since about 2017 when I won the first Religious Freedom in Film hosted by Empower Women Media Film Award. And I live in London. I've just got married last week, so big deal.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, the London Forum was amazing. We had a storytelling forum at a church called St. Paul's Hammersmith, which is a Church of England church, and we hosted about 4 or 5 different panels from mainly women from around, the Middle East, the MENA region, and it was incredibly inspiring. I'm very passionate about giving women a space to tell their stories, and that's exactly what we achieved on the forum. And we will be in Malta in March, and very much looking forward to that. Got an opportunity to show films, share stories. I think stories are a very powerful tool for breaking down barriers and building bridges between communities and giving people a place at the table, a seat to share a story is a very, very important piece of work that I think Empower Women Media and the Abraham Women's Alliance does. So thank you very much to both of you for hosting this, for giving us the space to do all of this.
Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to summarize just that, we are moving forward with our media and education and leadership initiatives. We're also considering hosting a media fellowship in the coming year. And so if you're interested in learning more about that and producing short films to support the Abraham Accords and peace and interfaith collaboration in the Middle East, please reach out to us. That's an exciting venture coming up. But I want to, since we have you in this call, really challenge you to come to Malta. And the reason why is it'll be a very rich networking and learning experience. You'll come away with tools and resources. It's not just a talking heads event, but you'll be placed at strategic tables with people in your sector where you can imagine co-producing a project together, perhaps a film or a new educational resource, or maybe an event or some kind of diplomatic outreach. And so our events are unique in that it's not a typical conference where you come and you just listen. You actually roll up your sleeves and you get to work with people in your sector. So I want to encourage you to come. If finances are a concern, and you're in Europe, the flights are very cheap. I just purchased a flight from London to Malta. I think it was $150. Hotel rooms are a great price if you do the early bird registration. They're about 150 euros per night, which is fabulous for Malta. And we chose Malta because it was the safest location to convene Muslims, Christians, and Jews in one location. We were in Dubai last year, which was okay. It was a beautiful event, but there was an act of religious violence that happened while we were there. And it was very disturbing to us and our team to have people from a faith community attacked. So we're not going back to Dubai this year, unfortunately. I'm not saying it couldn't happen in the future, but we felt like we needed to be extra conscientious. And so we picked Malta. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me. I put the links in the chat box. If you can't come, think about sending someone else on your team, helping us to promote the event. We only have space for about 60 to 80 people. Why? Because it really is a learning collaborative event. If we had 300 people, we wouldn't get much done. So we're focused on 60 to 80 leaders from dozens of organizations and countries coming together to get resources, get tooled up, and take that back home to their country and their networks. Astrid, do you have anything else you want to share?
Yes, I'd like to build on what you're saying and talk a little bit about the excursion, which is the favorite part of the conference for me. When we went to Dubai, we had the opportunity of taking all of our participants in a bus. We took them to the Abrahamic family house, which is a compound in Abu Dhabi that houses a church, a synagogue, and a mosque in the same location. It's really, I mean, the infrastructure is just stunning. It's beautiful. And I highly recommend it for all of you to visit Abu Dhabi. That excursion was very special. And we visited the Grand Mosque as well, Shireen, when we were there. That excursion, it was very special to all of us because all these women from all the Abrahamic faiths, we were just sharing and having a good time together and taking this excursion and going to the Louvre in Abu Dhabi and then going to the Abrahamic family house, which besides Jerusalem is the only compound that houses the three Abrahamic temples that represent the Abrahamic faiths. So in Malta, we are planning also after the conference, the day after, in the morning, we're going to have a meeting. And then in the afternoon, we are inviting everyone to take an excursion to some of the historic places in Malta, but also the ones that have religious significance. So it's going to be there's a lot of history in Malta. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. I haven't. So I'm very much looking forward to going there. But I hope you can join us. It's a really fascinating place. So I hope that if you decide to go, please, it would be a good idea to start making your reservations from now so that you can find affordable tickets. Shireen, you got to tell me what airline that was.
EasyJet, Ryanair.
Okay, that's a pretty good deal. So
it is. Yeah, and I want to just further explain that we're a network. We're a group of women and men who represent multiple agencies and professions, and we freely come together and collaborate. What's unique about our events is that it's a free event for people who are qualified. So once you come to the event, you don't have to pay a registration fee to come to our conference, which is really unique because most conferences like ours, where you have access to world leaders, have very high fees. So if you register, you can know that you're not paying for the 2-day event, but you will have to arrange your own travel and hotel. And we don't have the funding to do that. That's not how we operate as a network. Other NGOs may, but we don't. But I can guarantee that it will be a highly impactful experience, and it's worth you finding a sponsor, going to your employer. If you're a media producer, you could go to your employer and maybe pitch the idea of coming and covering this event and writing an article about it. There's so many ways to raise the funds to come. And we don't want funding to be a barrier. And so if you're thinking, gosh, I'm not sure if I can arrange the hotel or travel, talk to us and we can help you think about maybe writing a letter and how you can find a sponsor to help you. That's how we operate. And that's how we've grown. That's how we've, trained and equipped over 10,000 people. We're very resilient as women and we believe it's possible. So that's really it. Anything else, Astrid?
No, we're going to end a little bit earlier today. And I thank you everyone for having their lunch with us today at noon, for those of us that are here in the East Coast. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you in Malta and have a blessed and wonderful end of the year. This is our last Abraham Women Alliance webinar of 2025. And we have wonderful surprises for 2026 that I cannot tell you right now. We're working on it, but we're very much looking forward to seeing you next year. And thank you to all of you that follow us, love our work. They encourage us all the time to continue doing the work we're doing. You guys are a blessing to us. And thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very excited to be in Malta. Thank you.
Thank you.